Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday. We're late today. We're usually at 8:30 a.m. Pacific, but we're at the TIA conference here in Phoenix, Arizona, and we are in the best booth I've literally ever been a part of out here. So Sean's standing in for Mitch.
Yep, standing in for Mitch. That's why we're a little bit late. It's our fault. It's not his fault.
No, we're out here. You know, that's the thing, though. Like, when you come to these events, man, there's so much going on at all times where it's like it's tough to really be everywhere at one spot. And especially, I mean, Mitch is a hot commodity, man. You guys are out here in the orange. I got the tie orange on now. I think we got to switch it around.
Yeah, we feel like we kind of stole it from you a little bit, but we've had it as our highlight color, and we always like your shirt. You always stand out, so we kind of copied it a little bit on our jackets this year.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah. So what's been going on in your guys' world with this? Because you guys have been pushing out a lot of updates here, a lot of bringing more tools to the freight brokerage community to help them, you know, become more efficient in their processes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we've been our recent kind of campaigns have been just trying to really help brokers through this economy that we've been dealing with. And so, you know, you've heard us talk about the broker battle station. So we got a page inside of TIE that we just are hoping makes everybody faster in terms of like competition's heavy. Everybody's struggling for margins right now. We're hearing with some of our customers, or with some of the market, shipments are up, but like revenue's not necessarily up in some of them. But we do have some customers that are thriving by using the broker battle station, connecting it too with some of the capacity tools. But we have some customers where their freight volumes doubled per rep, and then they're also increasing margin. So it is possible, and we've been talking about that a lot at this show. It's like there are brokers that are still thriving, even though the market's been really challenging. Yeah, and I think that's one thing, though, that you need to look at from a workflow perspective, right? Because it's like, developing talent, training talent is another portion of the job. And then obviously finding customers, finding revenue and getting that. So it's like, from my perspective is I always want to bring enough information and enough tools to my team to enhance their capabilities, right? And where it's like, because I mean, from a startup perspective, as somebody who's out there trying to juggle building a book of business and doing all this stuff, man, it's like you're quoting customers, you're making a prospecting phone call on the next one, you're approving an invoice on the next one, making sure that BOL marks up. So it's like you need these tools out there. You need to give your team the capabilities to really enhance themselves. Right. Yeah. And I've been talking a lot about, brokers are always trying to push their team to make sure that they're going back to the same set of carriers, right? And making sure that we're building those relationships and things like that. But if you don't give your team an efficient way to do things, then you're going to find a lot of you coming to them and going, hey, why didn't you go to this carrier on this lane? Yeah. And they're going to go, well, dude, I got the load covered, right? Because there's so many things going on, and it's a stressful job. It's not easy to be, especially on the carrier up side, when you're just trying to find the best margin, get the best carrier. And if you don't have any kind of a process for your team where, you tell them to go back to this same set of carriers, but it lives on some spreadsheet over here, or there's no easy way to access it, then they have to literally sit there and put those emails together individually to try and get those guys. And if they're moving 100 miles an hour and then they end up posting, you can't really blame them for ending up being overly reliable on the load boards if you don't give them an easy way to go back to the same carriers again and again. So that's what we're always trying to do, is just not to use the pun, but tie it all together. So it actually happens. It actually happens on one screen, and we reduce it down to a couple clicks.
Yeah, and I think that's really, because it's like internal optimization, right? Because again, it's like when you're doing anything, you're getting pulled in 17 different directions minimum, and you have so many different forms of software out there for you to use. It's like I remember when I first started brokering freight, man, it was like a phone book, and not a phone book. I'm not that old, but it's like you have a lead list and you have a phone, and that was it. And then you had a your TMS, but then you had 6 other pieces of technology that you needed to use just to build a load or invoice a load and everything else, because it's like the front office part of the job is what's talked about the most, right? It's always like, oh, we need revenue, we need sales, but it's like Back office is where you literally make your money,
Yeah.
right? That efficiency, that workflow in the back office to get your carriers paid faster, customers billed accurately. I think because like that's what leads to customer retention. Most importantly is you don't want to make their job more complicated from a freight execution standpoint, but then a freight audit and bill pay standpoint as well. You can't make more work for them.
Right. Yeah. And you can't make more work for your team. Like these, like you said, the back office departments, like, because we're still such a fragmented industry, this is where brokers deliver so much value because they're such experts in helping shippers navigate the freight market. But to your point, you get all of this paperwork that comes in at the end, and it can be like, we see a lot of companies just living with the fact that this is just the way it is. We just deal with a lot of different pieces of paperwork and the freight audits and different things like that. And they're not even necessarily looking for a solution, right? Because it's been this way for so long. But now there's so so we have our document process that allows you to just forward your email paperwork to Ty, and then we just extract it and bring it in, and we help automate some of the audit process and just organizing it seems so like subtle, but to your point, it just makes everything faster so that you can invoice faster, and then you can make sure you're paying attention to your cash flow, which is, as it's a big deal in freight to stay on top of your cash flow.
No, and I think that's the biggest, like literally the biggest threat out there to any organization is improper cash flow management.
Yeah.
And I mean, I see it, because again, it's like, when you're bootstrapping anything or when you're building your business, like I've been in this position, right? You have tens of thousands of dollars due and you're owed tens of thousands of dollars, and you do not know how are you going to actually be able to pay your bills on time and what that does. And, and I think learning how to like manage your cash is, I want more people to spend more time as business owners to get out there and understand that is the most critical factor out there, and getting a line of credit or whatever that looks like. Cause that's what we're going through right now, right? Like we went out there, we got a line of credit for our business because we're hiring people and we're trying to do all of that.
Right.
And, but if we didn't have that extension, like we wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen companies end up in positions where unfortunately they literally have to sell. And sometimes they end up selling a portion of their business to the company that they owe the money to.
Yeah.
Right? And I've literally seen that happen, especially through COVID. There were a couple companies that weren't managing cash flow well that I actually witnessed them end up going to companies and end up selling pieces of their business because they were just, and it wasn't like the money wasn't there as far as like the revenue and the profitability. It was just they were not managing the cash flow. So they were in this position where they owed everybody money and they couldn't like collect fast enough to get it paid, and they just ended up having to make these unfortunate decisions, right? And they're not bad companies. Like I said, if they're profitable, that's, but if you put yourself in a bad cash position in this industry, it gets pretty rough.
No, and that's the thing, right? Is because I think like when anybody's, whether you're building a book of business or your business itself is it's like, how do I get money? How do I get money?
Yeah.
And then you get money and they're like, how do I manage it? Like, why am I spending it so fast? What we're like, having proper, money in the bank, I think, and like coffers set up for, your emergency funds and your operating expenses and even taxes, right? Like it's literally tax day on Monday. How many people out there are going to get slapped with a tax bill and they're like, I do not have the cash on hand to actually pay that. So it's like, there's so many things out there. And this is what I love about what you guys are doing though, is you're keeping it in what I think a TMS should be, a central point of operations entirely, right? Like you should not be spending any wasted seconds jumping to other platforms or other programs out there. Everything should be right in there because, as somebody who's building a book of business right now out there, you guys, here's what matters: speed, right? You need to get rates back to customers very, very fast. And you guys have some integrations out there to where it's like, it's just instantaneous, right?
Yeah, and I think that helps with the profitability on each load, because like when we talk about trying to increase margin per load, you have to give your team the tools to where they can feel confident about their negotiation. So if you're looking at green screens and sonar and your lane average, and there's an easy way to collect the data on all of your quotes that you get from carriers, it doesn't live in somebody's inbox somewhere. That's all gathered on one screen, and you can compare your averages and what you did yesterday, even like the drill downs of like, well, we ran this 3 times yesterday and here was the price, and it matches up with what I'm seeing on green screens and our average. And all of a sudden, if somebody's pushing back on you, that like your team all of a sudden has this immense confidence in negotiating that with the shipper or even the buy rate with the carrier, right? And if they don't have that information, they're kind of, some brokers just know, right? Some brokers just know the lane and they know what to do. But what about like trying to scale up and trying to train some of the guys that are hustlers that maybe don't have that confidence in the negotiation? If you put the information in front of them, there's no guessing, right? And you do have to be quick on those quotes back to your customers. But in those spot quote scenarios, if you're faster, you're going to win even if you're not the lowest price. So if you put it all on one screen, they can make a very quick. If your people are smart, right? You put all that information in front of them, they can make a quick decision and feel pretty good about it. They don't feel like you're going to come back and bark at them for, like, hey, the margin was like, if you can show them, I looked at all of this and that's why I quoted the customer that, then you have a good training moment. Like, hey, that actually, even though we lost a little bit of money on that load, that is a great thought process. Like, I wouldn't have done anything different. Right.
Yeah.
So
what are you guys hearing from your customers right now about, like, when they are developing business, when they are needing to get rates out to people that, they might not be entirely confident on what they're quoting, but it's like, they need the business aspect of things. So, like, what are those conversations looking like for you guys?
Yeah, well, I did a webinar only like a couple months ago with a company called Freight Saver that's been a longtime customer of ours, and they actually because they came on so long ago, and like you were saying earlier, we've made so many enhancements over the last 3 years, and they've been with us for probably 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So their team was kind of just using it the without any of the updates, really, right? Like they were there, they were available, but they just had their processes. So they revamped their whole team to follow what we like to call the Thai way, as far as like how to, because it's taking all your steps and just putting them on one screen, putting them into a couple clicks. So when they're going out, they've won a handful of really good contracts, and we're hearing that from other folks. And so, like, we have some brokers that are really thriving because they use this time period, this lull in the market, to get more efficient, and that's translating into winning additional contracts. And so that's why I say, when I say some brokers are thriving in this, there are brokers that are winning, but they're hit. It's not just a Thai thing, obviously. Like, they're hitting everything. They're doing their marketing right. They're messaging with their sales team. Their trainings on par. They're using this type of down market to just make everything more efficient.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just one thing. I was just talking about that on my panel this morning about branding and everything, and about, like, with training, where it's like, because that came up, and I'm like, training is there's not a finite amount of training. Like, it's a continual process that you need to go out there, because if you've never worked in different markets, you're not going to know how to react in those moments. And from my perspective, it's like, because I was like, that's what we did when we first got back in and started the brokerage up, was we spent the first couple of months just building out our training platform. Like, we have so much of that done because, again, like, and it's an open book essentially with it, because there's, every time we learn something, boom, we want to update our training. We want to do that because we want to prepare our team for literally as many scenarios as we possibly can. So again, they're quick, they know how to react in the moment, and then they can keep our customers loyal to working with us, because our team is known to solve problems, not create larger ones, and make things go out there. And, from a tech perspective, it's like, there's so many more efficient ways that you can do this job now, right? Like, you don't need to have an Excel spreadsheet or a piece of paper out there. Like, you can build all of these processes into your software and everything, and you can maximize your outputs,
Yeah. And I've even been telling people, like, even if you're not ready to make any kind of a jump into all the softwares that are out there nowadays, at least write your process up, at least have a process. Because I think too many people, and I was listening to this on some of the panels today, too many people spend a lot of time just focused on, like, I'm just going to bring in somebody with experience, right? Yeah. But everybody's looking for those guys, right? Everybody's looking for the brokers that could come in, bring a book of business over with them. And I mean, that's great. And if you can recruit well, more power to you. You should do that. But if if you just had a process that you wrote up, even if it's not, you don't spend a bunch of money on tech, at least when you bring somebody in, they'll know exactly what to do. We try to, that's one of the ways that we talk about Ty, is we want you to have scalability. We want you to be able to bring somebody in who's young and hungry and kind of knows some stuff and is, like, really wanting to learn from the guys that are more seasoned. Yeah. You can see on one screen what those more seasoned guys did, and you can train your team off of that one screen to say, hey, you see what Chris did on this load? Yeah. You can see he got like 5 quotes. They're all right here. He compared it to this, right? And then he blasted it out to our top, 10 carriers on that lane. And then he picked the lowest one, and he went with a 4-star carrier because they were $100 less than a 5-star carrier or whatever, because we have a rating system inside of Ty, right? So it just makes it easy to explain all that, because otherwise you kind of have to show them how to jump around, right? And that's hard to learn. Right? Like, it's some guys are so good at it that it's like, I wouldn't even suggest that they break up their process, because they've been doing it forever. They're fast. They know exactly what to do, but you can't scale like that, because you have to try and pull that out of like I would have to pull it out of your head to train
Yeah.
a younger guy on it, right?
Yeah, no,
Well, guy or girl, I should say.
Yeah. No, it's all good, man. And I know we're going to be cutting this one short today, you guys, because Sean's busy. This entire room is filling up right now.
Yep.
And, you know, we're out here making things happen. We're going to have to do this. You're always welcome back, man.
Yeah.
You know that.
No, I appreciate it.
And you guys hit up Ty. Hit him up. Sonny Sharma right here says Ty and Broker Carrier has made our lives easier.
Thanks,
Zems.
Sonny. Sonny, he's the man.
Dude, he really is.
Yeah.
He's
I wish
actually
he was
the
here.
originator of the orange shirt gang.
He has an orange jacket, and he rocks it too.
I know.
It doesn't look like it's not as bright, right? But it's this kind of material, and it works for him so well. Love you, Sonny.
You guys, but hey, that's going to be it. We'll be back on Monday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.